Yo, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to Overwork Wednesdays, where we're all about the grind, the hustle, and finding smarter ways to really build our empires. So, we have a quick session today focused on personal development, um, using a method that I kind of had developed during my time as a campus leader. And, you know, that was about 5 or 6 years ago at this point. And I still find myself going back to this methodology whenever I need clarity for what I want to do in my life, what I need to do in my life, or things that I want to do to feel fulfilled, right? To feel passionate about, right? And the thing about being overworked is if you're not working on something you love, what are you really working on for real, right? So that's really been a motto of mine, right? But I do that using this method to make sure that not only am I working on something that's really extremely fulfilling, but I get to do it in a way that's holistic and I'm looking at the entire picture of it, not just one step of a 10-step plan, right? So, um, really quickly, uh, the plan in itself is called the MPEAR program or the MPEAR plan, however you want to talk about it. Um, MPEAR stands for manifest, plan, execute, affirm, and reflect, right? And it's meant to be like a holistic situation that you use whenever you're looking at maybe like a short-term, project or a long-term goal that you want to achieve and accomplish within your life. So the MPA program can be used at multiple scales for multiple scopes, right? But I want us to understand really the fundamentals of it, right? Because I think it has a lot of key things that we don't always practice, right? So MPEAR, manifest, plan, execute, affirm, reflect, right? So let's start with the first one, the big one, manifestation or manifest, right? The first step in the MPEAR plan. And the reason it's the first step is because you need to dream a little bit to be able to have a dream, right? Does that I mean, you gotta think of something before it's like, oh wow, this is something that I'd like to do, right? And how we manifest, I think of it in two ways. It's audio and visual, right? Um, so even though it's going to be spoken about a little bit later on as I kind of get through this, right? We have the affirmations part of things, right? But audio and visual manifestation looks like this. It's how are you approaching the things that you dream about, right? Point blank serious, point blank period. One thing for me, right? I always wanted to be an engineer and be able to build cities and environmentally focus and have an impact to make things better for people that look like me, right? People that look like me are the most probably the biggest residents of inner cities in at least in America, right? And how can I make those experiences better, right? That was my big goal, right? And just in saying that, there's not really any definitive actions with those words, right? Yeah, I could have went to be a city planner, which okay, cool. I could have been a bridge builder. I could have been a plumber, right? To do those things and be able to accomplish that goal and to really fulfill that step, right? But what I did was I broke it down, right? And the audio part starts with this. You ask yourself first, how do I envision X, Y, and Z? So how do I envision me helping cities or me building um, communities for people, right? And okay, I realized, hey, you know what? Maybe I won't be doing that from the pipes. Plumbing may not be in my situation, but I do love the technicalities of it, whether it's the design or layouts or conceptual planning or master planning of things. And from that internal conversation, and that was a very quick kind of segue, right? Because it that conversation in itself took me some time. May have been, from when I was graduating high school up until maybe my freshman or sophomore year of college, right? And but I constantly asked myself the question, right? Because okay, how can I do this? How do I envision this, right? How do I see myself impacting these communities? And then from there, the visual aspect comes into play, right? Because I can ask myself the questions and have the internal dialogue, but how do I see myself in that place, right? So what does that look like? Well, I envision myself in a hard hat. I envision myself as a land developer. I envision myself having a large plots of land, but not in a sense where it's going to be all mine, but to be able to develop things for the community, whether it's playgrounds, research parks, third spaces, etc. Right? And this was a part of my vision that I had literally dreamed about after a certain time, right? Because after having the internal discussion with myself, it moved itself to my subconscious. My subconscious was like, okay, cool. So I literally dreamed about being on construction sites as a kid, right? And hey, listen, you can never force yourself to dream, but you can daydream, right? I guess that is forcing yourself to dream. Yeah, well, so you can force yourself to dream. It's the daydream. It's how you visualize what you do in these spaces or what you're doing in these spaces, right? So using those two audio and visual components, that that is the basis, and the very basic level, but that's the basis of manifestation, right? Okay, so I've manifested, I've dreamed, right? Oh, I have all these really cool ideas and I see myself in these places, but how do I actually achieve that? Here comes the second step, planning. So you have all these dreams and desires and things that you've manifested and you've visualized it, you've audio manifested through words of affirmation and really speaking it into existence. And then you've seen yourself doing it, right? The next step is to plan, right? And this is where we get a little bit technical. Me as an engineer, I like to mix in the technical but also the spatial, right? Because they're both necessary, right? So when you're thinking about a plan, right, you wanna look, you want to be able to act on it, right? And for that, I use something that's probably fairly well known called SMART, right? Whenever you're planning or you're making a list of goals or whatever, right? It's a framework called SMART that helps. It's a lot of acronyms, right? It just helps memorization, right? With practice, it becomes something that you can do without even thinking about it, right? But for those who don't know, SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right? And when when looking at the planning phase of things, right, you also want to look at, okay, this is a large scale thing. For me, when I was planning my career, I was like, look, I know this is not going to be something that I just wake up and it's like, hey, this is what I want to do, right? But I can put in certain benchmarks to make sure that I can plan effectively, right? And some of those things that were a part of my plan were, okay, let me research companies, right? After researching companies, I learned that hey, there's a lot that a civil engineer may do, right? Okay, well, let me research civil engineering, right? And that was the next step. Okay, well, after that, let me research how much a civil engineer gets paid because they need to be able to live as someone, it's America, it's expensive, right? So these were all things that were a part of my plan. Getting a job, right? These were all things that were part of my plan that, you know, I actually had to sit down and design out, right? It didn't just come instantly. Okay. Um, Another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to planning is there's short term and there's long term planning, right? And long term planning is you have to be patient, right? Some things that I planned for during my freshman and sophomore year of college are now happening, right? And it's like, hey, well, you know what, Chris, you plan for that to happen, right? And for me, those things were, hey, Chris, plan out how you want to live your life, how you want people to interact with you, right? I used to be very, I'm very much an ambivert, leaning extroverted, right? But I used to be like a super extrovert. I walk into the spot, everybody knows who I am, this, that, and the third. And I realized that, hey, look, the plan that I set out for myself, the way I manifested my being as an adult may not specifically align with me being that person. And it really took me time to see that long-term plan. get into fruition, right? Um, so, okay, getting back to the MPEAR program, we have the manifestation, right? You've done your audio visual manifestation with words of affirmation, but also visualizing yourself, daydreaming about the things that you really feel fulfilled doing, right? Then we went down and broke down the plan. Okay, we have a long-term plan for those goals and those things that you're manifesting that may require a long period of time. Or if it's a shorter project, yo, I have my 5 things that I need to do by the end of the week, right? And I stick by it consistently. Okay. The next step is execution, right? Just do it. The reason why we manifest and then plan behind it is so that when it comes to the execution phase, the only thing you have to worry about are the variables, right? The things that you cannot control, okay? You can control your attitude and how you feel about a certain situation, hence the manifestation and being positive in your affirmation, right? You can layer out the steps that are specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, realistic, and timely, right? And that's your entire blueprint for what you need to execute on, right? You've set yourself up and you do it. A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the plan, you get trucking along, right? As you're doing it, you take notes, right? A big part of the execution phase is being able to be fluid, right? Being able to be introspective, but then extrospective, right? You're learning about what you're doing as you're doing it, right? So as you finish a task or you finish a step, you write a quick note or you make a quick, you put something in your memory bank and you say, hey, look, okay, as I was taking this one class that I really need to become an engineer, or I really need to become an artist, or doing this one thing that I really need to start this business, to start this brand, here's what I experienced. Okay, let me go to the next, you put in your pocket and you go to the next part of the plan, right? Because the biggest thing about the plan is you got to finish it, right? Now, if there is something that completely stops your progress, okay, we're going to get to the next part of the MPEAR plan and how you really accommodate for being fluid and needing to make those changes, right? The next part of the MPEAR plan is affirmation, right? So as you're executing, there's so many things that will try to get in your way, right? Let's take a fitness example, right? Hey, I manifest a certain body for myself. I manifest me going into the workout and feeling jacked and being real brolic, like I'm there, huh? Right? Huh. Okay, but I get there and I injure myself. Or, yo, this weight is mad heavy, right? What pushes you past the point, right? And of course, if you're injured, then you're going to be pushed to the hospital or back to the bed where you need to rest and relax and, you know what I'm saying? Like, get your stuff together. But what pushes you past that point of, oh, I'm too tired to do this, or oh, this seems really, really hard, right? Positive affirmations of self. So just like I said in the beginning, affirmations play a really big part in this, right? Because that's not something we're really taught to do. You need to be able to, you yourself first, as you're doing something you feel as fulfilling, you gotta be your number one supporter. If you don't support yourself, nobody else will, right? So what are the words? What is the tone in which you communicate with yourself that motivates you to get to the end of the plan, to finish executing, right? Whether it's, yo, I'm in my head a lot. Yo, Chris, man, this is tough. Man, I got this. Cool. Don't even worry about it. All right, let me take this note. Man, I'm gonna get this done. This is gonna get done tonight. Just like me with this video. I said it's gonna be a one take Jake. And it's looking like one take. I mean, my battery died, but gonna be one take, right? The words you use during the execution stage to affirm the plan that you've set and the vision that you've manifested is critical to you seeing whatever you want, right? Like we were saying before, it could be used in multiple ways, multiple scopes, scale, whatever. it's critical to you seeing that through, right? So you must affirm yourself. You must be able to affirm yourself in the actions that you are executing, right? After you've reached the end of your planning phase and you know, steps A through Z have been completed, boxes are checked, T's are crossed, I's are dotted. Did I say that right? Yeah. T's are crossed, I's are dotted. Then you take a step back and you do the last part. You reflect, right? Okay. So and you look through the whole process too. Like it's not just, oh, you reflect on the stuff that you were doing, you know, or I just reflect on the plan. No, look, okay. In the beginning of this, I really thought I was going to be a plumber and I wanted to be able to work on houses and buildings for people, right? Somewhere in the plan, I realized that wasn't something that was really for me. Okay. So I got to the end of the plan and I found the 5 companies that I wanted to work at, but these might not be exactly what I need. How do I adjust? Right? Oh, okay. Then you start a new manifestation based off of the experience and the information that you got from your entire process, right? So as you can imagine, the MPEAR process is very cyclical, right? It happens in cycles. It's never ending, right? One thing that I really attribute this program or this plan or whatever you want to call it to is the quote, in nature, if you're not growing, you're dead, right? Like even trees, they look huge, right? But they grow ever so slowly, ever so slightly. And that's what this entire program is meant to do. It's a consistent means for holistic growth. And how do you really find that within yourself? How do you define it? And how do you find it and act on it and then make sure that you're acting on it in the best sense, right? You do that through strong manifestation, both audio and visual, setting a very smart and executable plan, executing that plan and affirming yourself through it, right? And then reflecting on the entire process to then be able to do it better, right? It's a positive feedback loop of good intention, of good action, and something that's made to make you feel fulfilled in your daily life, right? So I gave a couple examples of how this works kind of as I was explaining the parts, but let me give it to you holistically, right? As in something that kind of happened for me, right? Cool. So I played basketball, high school, middle school, and a little bit in college, right? One of the biggest things that I really envisioned for myself was playing at a pro level, right? And although I had the skill, some might say, to play pro level overseas, right? If I really wanted to work at it, I also wanted to be an engineer, right? That was something that I was like, yo, I'm gonna be an engineer basketball player. I'll be the first one to do it. That was my manifestation, right? That's my positive talk, right? And then I put out the plan. The plan was go to a D3 school with a really competitive program, right? Talk to the coach and walk on. Uh, Make sure I'm doing really well in my academics during my first couple years in college, right? And make sure I'm in the gym every god dang day, right? And realistically, as I executed my plan, I went to a highly competitive Division 3 school, right? I spoke to the coach and I walked on, right? Um, my academics were okay for the most part, right? But it after I had kind of gotten to all those steps, as I was affirming myself in the work that I was doing and I was executing the plan that I had set out, I took a step back really halfway through my first year. And I realized, and I reflected, right? I was like, oh, wait, Chris, you had a test yesterday and you got 2.5 hours of sleep. Why? Because I had group projects. As an engineer, that's just what it was, right? Not only that, but I had practice, right? for an extra hour and a half, 2 hours after my day of classes. After practice, I either went to the gym and got more shots up, or I went to the weight room, right? Sneaking a little bit of dinner just to make sure that I was good, right? Because you gotta eat, especially as a student athlete, right? And then I would go and study for my test. And upon reflection, I realized, like, hey, this may not be the most sustainable way for me to stay close to the game I love of basketball, right? This may not be the most sustainable way for me to go pro. So then I look back and I reflected and I said, hey, Chris, why do you want to go pro? Why do you want to play professional basketball? Well, I want to be able to get paid doing something I love, right? But don't you love engineering too? Well, yeah. Don't you love being creative and being artistic as well? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, there are more things that I love that I can make a more executable plan to achieve. So this was the entire process for me. That's like my whole freshman year of college, right? Towards the end of my freshman year, I was still playing basketball. I ended up leaving the team at my alma mater, but I was, in an intramural team. I played in leagues and in rec leagues all across. We had a club team that traveled all over the place, right? So, okay, I'm still attached to the game, and there's still opportunity for me to develop as a player, right? So when I graduate, maybe I'll see what that's looking like, right? I was able to adjust my manifestation because I literally went through the whole cycle, manifested what I wanted to see and what I desired. I planned for it effectively, right? I executed on that plan, but took notes on the things that worked and didn't work as I was executing, right? During my execution, I affirmed what I was doing. You got to imagine, as the only walk-on from Houston, Texas, went up to middle of nowhere, Massachusetts, to go and play some basketball and learn engineering. It was cold, it was dark, it was tired. You know what I'm saying? I missed my peoples. It was a lot. So I had to affirm myself through the process. After that experience, I had to sit back and reflect. I had to, because I wanted to make sure that every step that I was taking was one that I could be fulfilled in doing, right? So that breaks down the MPEAR program and how I used it in a sense. And the kind of the reason I'm giving this and sharing this information is I believe that everybody should be able to do what fulfills them every single day. What else we on earth for? What else do you live for? Right? So, right, big overview, MPEAR plan, right? Manifest, plan, execute, affirm, reflect. It's a cycle, right? You don't have to start with the manifestation. You could start in another place, right? But it's all meant to be so not only do you feel fulfilled as you're doing it, but you have the evidence that you've created in yourself, right? Through these positive self-talk, affirmations, planning, etc., to be able to achieve the things that fulfill you on a daily basis, right? Um, so yeah, as you all go throughout your journey of life, take the time to just manifest the things that you really desire, right? Plan it out. See what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets you can put down to get you a little bit closer towards that dream and that goal. And then execute, do those things. Just do it. Like Nike. You know what I'm saying? Do it. You got it. And give yourself positive affirmations while you do. Or else the world is going to beat you down, my boy, my girl. You know what I'm saying? The world got it out for you. And then make sure you take the time to reflect as well. Okay? Because that reflection is key to making sure that you're still on the same path where you can feel fulfilled. Come on, preacher. Preacher. You know what I mean? So this is the MPEAR plan, brought to you by me, Kristophe Zephyrin of KNZ. I have a few workbooks and other resources that are associated to really help you start this journey. Feel free to, give me a comment, um, like, whatever, or what they say, like, share, subscribe, right? Um, but truly and honestly, I want to see more people achieve their goals, right? And if this is a tool that helps you do it, albeit, you know what I'm saying, just send me a little couple of dollars when you know what I'm saying, when you make it big, feel me? But yeah, that's it. This has been KNZ Media. This is Overworked Wednesdays, right? Where we're all about the grind, the hustle, and finding smarter ways to build our empires. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope y'all had a really good time watching this. Hope you took some notes. Make sure you do. Go ahead and rewatch this or whatever. Um, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Let me know what y'all want to see. We can do some interviews. Um, we can do some more personal development stuff like this. We can do something professional development wise. It could be something a little bit more creative. Let me know what y'all want, right? Got a lot of hustles and a lot of information to share. Talk to you soon. Peace.